This is the greatest test that I've ever had to endure for my entire life. A few of the things that are being tested are my will to live, my faith in humanity. Right now, the most immediate situation that I'm facing is in regards to my university. Last year, I decided that I want better for myself. That if I kept things the way they are, that I will never amount to anything. That if I don't put everything on the line to go and build a life for myself, then I'm as good as dead. Because without it, my ideals will be unobtainable. And so far, the only reason that I've been living up until this point is because of my ideals. Because of the things that I want. And so by the end of 2024, I told myself that I'm going to put everything on the line. That I'm going to put myself on the line. In a last-ditch effort to salvage what's left of my life. And I told myself on New Year's Eve that 2025 was going to be my year. And so come March, I applied to foreign universities because the current state of education in my current country is absolute dog shit. None of the students want to learn. None of the professors care because none of the students care. We are underfunded. We are overlooked. And we're being taught nothing. So I studied and I researched what universities I can enroll into. Because my grades have been fine. They've been above average. I have an IELTS score of 8.5. I have a GPA of 3.9. And so I applied to whatever university I could. And I kept looking and I kept researching how much it would cost because I'm on a budget. I come from a third world country where electricity and water outages are common. And I found a program in some Asian country that taught in English, that had a pretty decent reputation, a pretty decent ranking. And so I applied for a transfer because if I started from my freshman year again, I would have to drop out midway because we don't have the money. So I made the application, and I submitted all my documents, and I was accepted into the university. And then they asked me for additional documentation, which I provided to them. And then I waited for about a month and a half or maybe 2 months with no response. No update. And by that point, we were getting worried because the documentation that we were providing was all to get a document that allowed me to apply for a visa. And most students, they wouldn't have to worry about this because they can leave on August 30th and make it there on September 1st for the first classes without any problem. And that's because if they get the dormitory, if they get accepted, if they get drawn, then they get a reservation at the dormitory. But as luck would have it, the university that I chose, one of the only in that country with an English option, had a first come, first serve system. Meaning that you first have to apply to the dormitory like all the other universities, but you have to make it there to the dormitory to reserve your spot before somebody else gets it. So I knew from the start, I knew from March that I was on a time limit. And I tried everything in my power to provide everything that was asked of me, and to help the process as much as I can, to speed it up as fast as I can so I can have a house, only to be met with silence from the university until fucking August, when they told me that they needed additional documents that they had already received from me. And by that point, I knew I was fucked. Because applying for the visa takes up to 20 days. 20 work days. And by the time that the documents that they asked of me got to the university, they would have to spend an additional 3 days examining the documents. 3 pieces of paper. Repeating information from another document that I had already sent them 2 months prior. But as luck would have it, by the time my documents arrived in that country, the plane landed on Friday, and the university admissions team, as well as any other businesses, close on Saturday and Sunday. So I had to wait an additional 2 days. And so come Monday, and so come Tuesday, and they're quiet. And then they finally tell us on Tuesday evening, or they finally tell me on Tuesday evening, that my documents went under review. And so I had to wait an additional 2 days for them to tell me that my documents check out. That I can receive my letter of invitation so I can apply for my visa. But by that point, I knew. Because it was already August 8th. That I would most likely not have a dormitory by the time I got my visa and finally landed there. Because remember, back in July, they hadn't told me that anything was wrong. So I was under the impression that I was going to get my letter of acceptance any day now. And I had coordinated with my family to get a plane ticket on the 19th because the dormitories opened on the 20th. But then I heard from other people that other students had already started to get their letter of invitation to their universities. They were able to apply the next day for a visa. And we had waited several days with no response, no answer, no information. And then they hit me with another request to get documents that I had already sent them 2 months prior. And so by that point, I knew that I was fucked because I already had plane tickets. And even if you're 5 years old, you could tell that you just wouldn't have any time, that I didn't have any time to apply for my visa and to get on the plane. But I had a little bit of hope. Because by the time I applied for the visa, I knew that I was going to have a solid 10 12 days. And I was hoping that by some stroke of luck, my documents would go under review almost immediately, and I would get my fucking visa before my flight, my original flight. But I checked, and I checked again, and I checked again, and my documents did not go under review. Even on the 19th, it did not go under review. So we had no choice but to push back our plane ticket. And we had thought, if we give them one more week, surely we'll have our visa by Friday. And surely, because the dormitories would be closed on Saturday and Sunday anyways, surely I would be able to take a plane on Sunday and then at least have even a slight chance to have room in the dormitory by Monday. That Monday is supposed to be today! The visa went under review on Friday! And all the while, other things are starting to stack up. Other sources of stress. I think I'll get to them later. So by this point, I had gotten in contact with the agency that helped me apply to this university because I knew that because it's my first time doing something like this and because I'm transferring, that things were going to be even more complex. I applied for an agency that helped me apply to the university, that helped me apply for a visa, that gave me all the information I needed. And as a matter of fact, in March, when I had first gotten involved with this agency, they had told me that because my IELTS score was high, that I would get in with a scholarship. They were wrong. Because they don't give entrance scholarships to transfer students. And I was under the impression for an entire month, for an entire 2 months, that I was going to get into that university with an 80% scholarship, and that's what I had been telling my family this whole entire time. It's information I had gotten from the agency that has been doing this since 2004. How could they be wrong, I thought. And I told my family all the information that I had gotten. And it turns out that they don't give scholarships. They don't give entrance scholarships to transfer university students. So I begged my family. I got on my knees and I threw away every shred of pride I had. And I begged. I begged for the $4,000 that I needed for my first semester at that university. I had to get help and funding from several different families. Families who are related to me, sure, but... So by Friday night, when my documents finally went under review, I again knew that everything was over. But I had thought that there might at least be some slim chance that if I leave on Wednesday, that there might still be a slight chance of there being an extra space in the dormitory. Because I know that without it, I'd have to pay 3-4 times the amount I would have had to pay for a month to stay at the dormitory. That is speaking if I even get lucky and find a fucking agency that wants me as a tenant. Because just as luck would have it, that country is currently facing a housing crisis. And just as luck would have it again, the real estate agents, they don't look that favorably on foreign people. So I knew that if I didn't have a dormitory, that I'd basically be stranded in that country without a place to stay. And that even if I would get lucky and find a real estate agency that would want me as a tenant, that by the time I finish paying for housing for one semester, we would not have the money to pay for the next semester. But just as I had a little hope that there might be a slight chance that I wouldn't completely get fucked over by things that are outside of my control, I got a call this morning that there are no open flights on Wednesday. That the next available flight is only happening on Friday. That's the fucking 29th! The last workday until the fucking academic season starts. And I just know for a fact that by the time I get there, there's going to be no dormitory room left. And I know that all the blame, every single bit of the blame is going to fall onto me. Like it's my fault that the admissions team hadn't notified me of missing documents until after they had started sending out invitation letters. Until after students had already received their invitation letters. And like it's my fault that the immigration embassy of that country didn't start reviewing my documents, which I had submitted the very day I had received my letter of invitation. That it's my fault that they hadn't started reviewing my documents until the very last minute. And I know that if I throw away every single ounce of pride that I have once again and plead with the dormitory faculty, that they would tell me that it's my fault for being late. And I very well know for a fact that they tell me to deal with it. Speaking of academics, let's get on to that next. The university only opens course registration one day at a time for students in different years. The course registrations opened on August 10th, starting with seniors going down to freshmen on the 14th of August. I had gotten an email on the 11th of August that the course registrations would open for me on the 14th. And so on the day of the 14th, when the course registrations opened, the website told me that the course registrations weren't open for me. Because I'm not a freshman. On paper, I'm a junior. And my actual course registration had started and ended the very same day I had gotten the email telling me that my course registration was open on the 14th. They opened course registrations for everyone on the 18th, but by the time that date came, all of the classes that I needed to enroll into were closed! Because they're all full! And like salt on the wound, I had gotten emails from my professors telling me to enroll onto these classes that were mandatory for my major. I had gotten emails like that on the 14th, on the 15th, and on the 16th. So I wasn't able to apply for my major classes, let alone any classes. And they're telling me that course registrations open again on September 3rd, which ultimately means that I will miss the first 3 days of the academic season because they had overlooked the fact that I'm on record, on paper, a junior. And they had kept sending me emails directed for freshmen. So as frustrating as all of that is on its own, of course, just my luck, things would get worse. So much worse. This whole time, I had kept quiet about the way that all the people in my life had reacted to the situation. Because they reacted in the worst ways imaginable, that I had to make it its own separate section. It started when I first got told that the tuition fee would be $4,000 up front, and that if I hadn't submitted it by a certain date, which was only about 1 week away from when they notified me, that the university would see that as non-commitment and take me off of the wait list. And when I first told my family that, because up until this point, I'd been telling them that I was going to guaranteed get a scholarship, 80% scholarship, because of my high IELTS grades. Some family members were understanding. Understanding to the degree of, okay, we have no choice but to pay it. Not understanding to the degree of, it's not your fault that your agency made a mistake in the information that they gave you. Whereas my father, the moment he heard that I was not going to get a scholarship, he completely blew up on me. He told me things like, why did I even think that going abroad was a good idea? He asked me things like, why am I abandoning my current university and running away abroad? And he told me things like how he wasn't supporting me in this, that he didn't want to give a single cent to me. All the while, the other family members that I have, which to be honest are just one, my sister, she was trying everything she can to gather up as much money as possible to send me abroad. But she also has the same sort of ideas, the same conclusion, that it's somehow my fault that I was given misinformation. And every single time I would talk to her, she would keep repeating things like, you know, it's your fault that things are like this. If you had been more adept, if you had been smarter, if you had been better, none of this would have happened. And that's what they continue to tell me to this day. Whether or not something bad happens, whether or not there are any pushbacks, even if it's just me calling to tell them an update so they would be up to date with the information that is relevant to them, they would treat it always like it's bad news and always like it's my fault. I once called them to tell them about the dormitory, about how much it's going to cost, and about how it had a first-come, first-served basis. And they told me straight to my face, you know, it's your fault that your position in the dormitory isn't being reserved, right? That's what they told me. Like I'm somehow the person who made the entire system for the dormitory. Which I would just like to remind again that it is one of the only few universities in the entire country to go on a first come, first serve basis. Most other universities, hell, almost all other universities, because that's what my agency told me, all other universities have a lottery system where they draw your name and you get in entirely by luck. And just as luck would have it, I enrolled in one of the only few universities, and according to my agent, the only university in that entire country that has a first come, first served dormitory system. And so when I got told that my university invitation letter wasn't coming in and that all the other students had gotten it already, my family blew up on me again. And they told me that it's my fault for not giving them enough documents. That it's my fault for being slow, that it's my fault for being inept. All of which are untrue. And the whole time they keep talking to me in this demeaning manner, in this demeaning tone, which just shouts that you don't know anything. I know everything and you don't know anything. You are stupid and I am smart. You are a child and I am an adult. But I'm old enough to drink. And I still can't get treatment like an adult. I'm led to wonder, is it because of my face? Or is it because they just don't know me? Is it because that I had never stood up to them once? That I had never cleared up any misunderstanding they had? And then we apply for the visa. And then we get confirmation that we have to push back our flight. The agency told us to push it back by 1 or 2 days. We pushed it by an entire week and we still don't have our visa. And how does my family react to that? They blame me again. It's your fault for not being smart enough to get the invitation letter as fast as possible. How come the other kids are getting their invitation letters and you're not? You know, you're always like this. You're always stupid. You're always slow. You're always inept. And all the while, they keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about how they don't have the money. About how money's tight. And how because they're such good people, they're gonna do it for me anyways. Because that's how much they trust in my ability. Trust with heavy quotations. Because as they're telling me this, they're also telling me, they're simultaneously telling me that I don't have anything other than the English language to my name. They think I'm as stupid as a 13-year-old. They think I'm just as immature as well. They think that I can't think for myself. And they think that I'm only choosing to go abroad because it sounds fancy. And whenever I try to correct them, whenever I try to correct their misunderstandings, they immediately shut that idea down. It doesn't matter what I tell them, how I tell them, when I tell them, they're not going to listen. Because in their eyes, I'm too stupid to have any coherent thought. Because in this country, playing video games, the mere idea of playing video games is so stigmatized. And according to them, I have gone on record to play those disgusting video games. And the video games they call disgusting in question are nothing more than Minecraft and Five Nights at Freddy's. Games that I play to escape reality because I didn't have any friends. Games I play to escape reality because I didn't grow up with my parents. Games I ran away to when I was a kid because I was getting bullied. Which, by the way, when I told my family that, they told me to man up and beat the shit out of them. They told me to pick violence. And I didn't. Because I don't want to hurt anyone. That's how my family reacted. That's how my family responded. You know, by this point, I have a handful of in real life friends. They had gone abroad because they applied to universities abroad and they started their freshman year a year ago. They came back during the summer. And at first it seemed fine. At first everything seemed fine. We were laughing and hanging out and getting along as we used to, but I realized that there was this sort of tone of sheer and utter apathy to them. They only called me out when it was convenient to them. They only asked to hang out when they didn't have anything better to do. And every single time we met to hang out, they would just make me the butt of the jokes. Of course, I wasn't the only one they were doing it to. They were doing it to everyone else. But what's frustrating is that they only did that when they were in a group. One-on-one, They didn't have any of that. But when they were in group settings, all of a sudden, it's so funny to make comments on my weight. It's so funny to call me a libtard. It's so funny. It's just so funny to point their fingers and laugh at me. All the while, they're bragging to me about how life in universities abroad are just going so well, that they're making friends, that they have the money, that they don't have to worry about the financial situation because their family's got them covered. And this keeps going on and on and on. Because they would still pull that shit on me even when I try to have a reasonable conversation with them. When I tried to build human connection with them, they kept shitting on me. When I tried to get them into my interests, they just laughed it off and called me a libtard. And so with everything else that was going on, I couldn't take it anymore, and I confronted them because they were the last people who I wanted to be disrespected by, because I genuinely loved them from the bottom of my heart, and I cared about them as people. And I wanted to retain that friendship that we had built over multiple years. Over 5. And just like every other situation, they had completely brushed off any urgency that were behind my words. They were downplaying just how hurtful their comments were. And so I left. And so I stopped talking to them. I told them to give me space while I thought things over. And at the time, they said they would give me space. That I can think about it however much I want, and when I'm ready, that I could come back and I could talk to them about what happened. And when that time came, 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, I'm the problem. All of a sudden, it's my fault for wanting a healthy and respectful relationship with them. Because they're having so much fun just constantly shouting the N-word and calling me a plethora of beautiful things. Beautiful things. And that I'm the one for putting an end to their fun. That I'm the one who's at fault for bringing them into reality. If it were just that group of friends that did that, maybe things wouldn't be as bad as they are right now. Immediately followed up by that, 4 or 5 days after that happened, my best friend of 10 years, over 10 years, came to me and told me that he wanted to end our friendship because he thought that I was obsessed with him. And so I spent the next 30 minutes trying to tell him, no, that's not the case at all. And I'm going through every single instance that he mentioned that he suspected that I was obsessed with his life. And I debunked every single one of those misunderstandings. And by the end of it, I told him, listen, just a week prior, you were telling me about how we were going to be friends for a long time and how our friendship was going to survive through the biggest hurdles. Because he did that. I told him to think it over. Because maybe I was in a state of denial by that point. He told me that he'd been thinking about this, thinking about ending the friendship for 2 years now. Because our lives were heading in different paths, and he didn't want to... He didn't want to commit to a friendship that was inconvenient for him. And so I told him, by the end of that conversation, that I wanted to go on a trip with him, that he should think it over, and at least give me a response, and that I'd understand if he said he didn't want to go on that trip anyways. And he told me okay. And he went on home. And I never heard from him again! All the while, during that conversation, when he first confronted me and told me that he wanted to end our friendship, he had kept saying things like, "Oh, you deserve a better friend than me. Oh, I'm not a good friend for you. Oh, you deserve better." But I know now that those were just convenient excuses that he kept telling himself to convince himself that he's actually doing the right thing by stepping away from me, by abandoning me. But we both know that that's not true. And I know that deep down that you're not stupid. So by this point, I only have 2 friends left in real life. And those 2 people were originally part of that bigger group that I was talking about, that I had cut myself off of. And they had felt the same way. They also wanted to cut themselves off from that group, because they also could see just how toxic it was getting. But the whole time during that entire situation, they kept saying things like, "Oh, I'm neutral. Oh, I'm not going to pick a side. Oh, this isn't about me." And at several times, I had pleaded with them to help me confront them. Not because they were directly tied into the argument, sure, whatever. But because by that point, I'd been slowly getting worn down by everything that was happening. That I knew that I was completely susceptible to falling for their words. And then coming out as the one at fault. When in reality, we all knew that they were the ones who took things too far. So I had pleaded with him, not as his responsibility, but because I just desperately wanted him there as a friend, to please show up and just support me, and to help me deliver the urgency and the fucking sustenance, or the substance, that were behind my words, so that they would finally reach the fucking thick, insecure brains of those guys, who I still cared about, who I still care about. And they told me, "No, you're on your own. This is none of our issue. Handle it yourself." And as disappointed as that made me, I did. By this point, our only point of conflict was that. But then a few days ago, one of those guys I had cut off called me at 11 p.m. out of the blue, out of nowhere, no warning. And he starts fucking apologizing to me without a single shred of sincerity in his voice. And I'm completely skeptical. Hell, I don't even want to meet him. But he's like, "Hey man, we should meet and we should really talk this out." And I knew that right then and there that I was going to regret it if I walked away from that. Because I would basically prove to them his beliefs that I wasn't worth shit. That I was a coward who only ran away. And I called those 2 guys up. And I had asked them to come with me. And they said they would. And so they show up. And then they treat the entire thing like it's just some hangout. Like nothing bad has happened. Like he didn't just apologize to me over the phone. Like he didn't just tell me that he wanted to meet and talk about it. So by this point, I realized, like, oh my god. These people don't know anything. These people are completely ridding the situation of its urgency. And so I take control of the conversation and I ask every single question that I needed to from that guy. Like, okay, what do you think you did wrong? And, okay, what do you want from me? Why did you apologize to me? Why now? And I could just tell from every single one of his answers that he just, quite frankly, didn't give a shit. So I knew, right then and there, from his fucking pathetic excuses of answers, that this wasn't about apologizing to me and making things right with me at all. It was all about clearing his own guilty conscience. He tried to offer me food, but I didn't accept it. He tried to offer me to stay and hang out longer, but I didn't. And I left feeling completely invisible, completely overlooked, like I don't fucking matter, because all three people who were present, the other three people who were present in that fucking discussion, just completely treated me like I was some nuisance the whole time. And they completely, again, stripped me of any urgency, stripped my messages of any urgency. And they downplayed everything that I was saying, and they downplayed everything that I was trying to convey. And they got enraged at me for wanting to defend myself. And so the next day, I end up having a full-on psychotic breakdown. Because hell, who would have thought that being told time and time again by the people who were supposed to be your greatest supporters that none of what you're saying has any purpose, that none of what you're saying have any meaning, that they don't give a shit about you, that they think you're just overreacting. People who trample all over, when they tell you over and over again, when they show you time and time again that they're willing to trample over your feelings and your well-being just for the sake of it being fun and funny, of course you'd have a fucking mental breakdown. And although that night I had made it very clear that I never wanted to see him again, that our friendship was essentially over, I had thought that things were at least okay with the other two. But I knew deep down that I probably shouldn't have reached out to them because they were too immature to see the situation for the emergency that it was. And you know what? I was proven right. Again. When I called them and I told them earnestly, help, this is an emergency. I'm having a psychotic breakdown. I feel like I'm completely trapped, that the walls are closing in on me, and I feel like the only way out is to kill myself. They told me, that's rough, man. Sorry, other people have it worse. Sorry, I have a life too. You know, you should try drinking some beer. And then fucked off like none of that even fucking happened! Like I was just throwing some temper tantrum so I could squeeze every bit of attention and time that I had. And you know the crazy part? The only way I managed to weather that storm was by distracting myself. The only thing I can do now is distract myself because I don't have anyone to support me. All this time, the only thing I've ever wanted was to build genuine human connection, was to not be alone anymore. And these people, time and time again, have proven to me that they're capable of it, but they're not willing. And every single time I approach them for help, they tell me that I'm just overreacting, that it's not a big deal, that other people have it worse. And again, just like my family, they tell me that it's my fault I feel this way. And even if they don't say that outright, they imply it. So now, to you, my viewer, you might be wondering to yourself, why am I sharing this information? That's because ever since that day when I had that psychotic breakdown, things have been slowly and gradually getting worse for me. This is my last-ditch attempt to prove to myself that there are people out there who care, that there is a point in trying. But also, I want you to get to know me. Because the truth is, nobody knows me. Not my family, not my friends, the people who were supposed to know me. They have let me down in the worst ways imaginable. The truth is, I want to live. And I didn't choose any of this. I didn't choose to suffer through this much. Please, talk to me. Treat me like a living human being. Strike up a discussion with me. This isn't just a vent. I'm in a dire situation. I'm in an active emergency as we speak. I feel like the walls are closing in on me. And I'm losing a little bit of hope every single day with every single pushback that happens. That it doesn't even matter if I run away to another country, that I'm still going to suffer the same way and that nothing's ever going to be worth it. I want to live. But I know that with how much stress I'm running under and how I'm constantly in a state of fight or flight, that if things continue to be this way, I'm going to act impulsively. My body is going to act on its own and it's going to kill itself. And I'm scared every single day. And I thought originally that if I could just hold on until Wednesday, that I'd be able to prove all those doubts wrong. But now it's being pushed back to Friday? And even worse, the chances that I'll actually have a place to stay there are little to none? In a foreign country where I don't know anyone there? Please. Tell me that you care. Prove to me that I'm also a human being. Tell me show to me that I matter. That's all I ask from you, dear viewer. I didn't dump this just so I feel better about myself. I told you all of this because I genuinely am pleading with you. Please, if anyone is willing to build genuine human connection, I beg you, I am at your mercy. Talk to me in the comments. I'll leave my Discord in the description. Please reach out to me. Please talk to me. That's all I want from you, viewer. And now I'm going to dedicate an entire section sort of making a message to all these people who have failed me. So you can leave now if you want, but just know that this next section is going to be so much darker than any of the other ones. It's going to be heavier, not darker. So with that being said, I leave this in case I die. You know, all my life, I've lived it looking up to every single one of you. I had so much faith and so much hope in every single one of you. For all of my life, you were the reason why I kept going, even though I was suffering so much. And so you probably understand from that your betrayal has hurt me in a way that cannot be healed. You have broken me as a person. And the only thing that's going to be keeping me going is my rage at every single one of you. And my desire to make you suffer through what you have done to me. No? Not even that. To make you suffer the consequences of your betrayal. It's so unfair that you get to live your lives with a support system, with a loving family, with resources that I could never even dream of, while I, the one who suffered for every single one of your inactions, for every single bit of your misrepresentations and misunderstandings that you refused to clear up with me, it's so unfair. And that's not how I want the world to be. So I'm going to keep living. I'm going to keep living so that I could just dig it immediately into your brains that you were all wrong about me. But also, I'm going to keep living so you don't pity me. So you don't tell yourselves that, oh, I tried all I could But he pushed us all away. We tried to save him. But it's his fault that he pushed us all away. I thought the whole time, during the entire time span of our relationships, that you knew me, that you wanted to know me, that you cared about me. But it's been made evidently clear to me that you only care about yourself. And that you chose your own convenience and comfort over my own well-being. How much longer can you keep using me as a scapegoat to run away from the fucking consequences of your own actions? Because I know that deep down you're not stupid. And I know that deep down you know that everything that has transpired is all on you. How much longer are you going to keep running away from reality? How much longer are you going to keep running from reality at my expense? And I want you to know that even as all of you have betrayed me and left me to die, I still don't hate you. I hate the way you are. I don't think any of you are irredeemable. I know you're not stupid. I know you can be better than this. So stop being spineless cowards for once and take accountability. I'm going to make sure that you have no choice but to do that by proving every single one of you wrong. You spineless cowards. So keep me in your minds as much as I used to keep all of you in my minds and hold you so dearly. And prepare to have the same shit you served me back at you by your own hands. Because you're not stupid and you can't fucking fool yourself. Okay?